Welcome back to another episode of the Hit Podcast. My name is James Layton, CEO and founder of Anderson James. This is the podcast where I bring you real-life stories from some of the most inspirational leaders of our sector. Today, I was delighted to be joined by Emma Richman, Executive Director of Operations at Peaks and Plains. We talk at length around getting more women into the sector and Emma's efforts to encourage more women through her Women in Property and Women in Leadership groups. We also look at the resurgence of Peaks and Plains over the last 12 months, how they've gone from a grading G3 to G2. Their aim to create 500 new homes by 2028 and a £102 million funding deal with Aviva and Barclays to facilitate this. We also look at what the effects of the rent cap might be and what impact that's going to have to the services we can deliver for our customers. I hope you enjoy the episode, and if you do, I'd ask that you like and subscribe. Enjoy the show. Emma, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, it's really good to be here.
Well, thank you for doing it, and I'm excited about this one. As I always like to start, would you mind just giving us a bit of an introduction to yourself and a little bit of an overview?
Yeah, so my name's Emma Richman, and I have worked in social housing for nearly 27 years, which is a bit scary. But I am really proud to work in the sector. And I think that it's a great sector to work in. I'm currently an exec director of operations at Peaks and Plains Housing Group. So I have quite a wide directorate with lots of different things going on. Yeah. And I also sit on the board of First Choice Homes Oldham. I'm on their board, and I also chair their investment and development committee. I'm also involved in a couple of NatFed groups, which is really good because that gives a lot of insight, and we're able to help feed research and information that goes to the government on things like building safety and energy efficiency, zero carbon. So yeah, very busy.
It does sound busy, yeah. I can't wait to unpack some of that. But as I always like to start, just how did you get into the sector? What was your route in? I always like to ask people that.
Yeah, so a lot of people will say they fell into the sector, and I fall into that category as well. So I actually did an architecture degree in London, and in one of the summer holidays, I met my husband, who was Mancunian, as I am, and so sort of lured back after about 4 years, and I took the first job just to start earning some money, really. So I started working for a housing association that was called Northern Counties, that's now part of the Guinness Group. And I was really lucky. I worked there for about 13 years and I got promoted. They paid for me to do another degree. So I did building surveying at Salford, which is, it's very rare that would happen now. And yeah, I know. And the other positive thing that happened there was when I was pregnant with my son, who's nearly 18, I was promoted while I was on maternity leave. It was brilliant. I had very, very positive experiences. And then I just moved around. I just kept moving up within the sector and did different roles. And I am now at Peaks and Plains. And yeah, it's been good.
Amazing. And just in terms of Peaks and Plains, then, just give us a bit of a helicopter view, because I'm interested to understand your role in a minute, but just give us a helicopter view as Peaks and Plains as we stand here today, like unit sizes, residents, etc.
Yeah, so we're a smaller housing association, but we've still got about 6,000 homes, and we've got a good development programme. We we're in quite a nicer areas, really. We've got high value areas. We're based in Cheshire East and High Peak. And so, we operate in quite affluent places. So a big challenge to us is right to buy. Okay. But we, we're really proud. When at the point I joined the organisation, we were at a point of downgrade with the regulator. And one of the things that attracted me to the role was being involved in bringing the organisation round, which is what's happened. So that's been a good journey with the regulator, and we're now on a good trajectory to get to G1.
Amazing. And an exec director of operations, I mean, it could mean many things, but you said you wear a lot of hats in that role. Talk us through it. What's the day to day? What are you responsible for in your part of the business?
Yeah, so I have some really good staff, but I have development, I have assets, I've got repairs, got customer experience, customer voice, estates, ASB, compliance and assets. Yeah, it's as I say, I've got some really strong members of staff and good managers, and I see my role in making sure they're motivated, they've got the right resources, got the right support, and I try and get myself a lot of knowledge through the groups I'm on and networking to make sure that I can answer any of their questions. But it's really good because this role has enabled me to probably get involved more in the rents and the ASB side, the customer stuff that traditionally my career's been very property and asset and development related. So it's been really good, and I think it's really important that people take these opportunities as they come and learn on the job.
Yeah, and how have you found the size of the organisation? 6,000 properties isn't small by any stretch, but I imagine some of the challenges are intensified having been a smaller business than it is if you're in a bigger organisation. You've got more infrastructure behind you. But how have you found that challenge of coming into a business that's slightly smaller?
I think it's been. I started just when COVID hit,
Okay.
so that was really difficult with such a big directorate, and I had to find ways of communicating and keeping on top and making sure I was assured, so I could assure our board. So I think it is busy because of the different hats we've got on, and I think we've obviously got lots of challenges at the moment that's going on, and I think with a smaller housing association, you're more locally based. So whereas I've worked for larger organisations before, and so it's a different experience. I think that sometimes when you're a bit more smaller and more focused, you can offer a much better service.
I agree. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you've got.
And I can give an example of that. So when I was at Northern Counties and we merged with Guinness, I felt that some of the focus in areas like East Manchester and Stockport fell because we became part of a much more bigger agenda, and ultimately the customers are the people that suffer. And at the moment, our customers need so much more support than they've ever needed.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree on the service point. I think a bigger organisation does struggle. A lot of tenants, a lot of residents, a lot of properties. There's a lot more challenges. But what are you seeing in terms of some of the big challenges at the moment? Obviously, it's never been hard to work in a housing association at the moment. I've got building safety, development, building new homes, the decarbonisation agenda, all of that going on. I mean, where do you even focus your time? And as a leader, how do you prioritise what's important?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, the big things have been sort of building safety and also zero carbon. But obviously, cost of living is huge, and we've now got the challenge with the rent consultation that closed today.
Yeah.
So that's a massive issue, because in order to deliver some of those bigger things like the building safety and the zero carbon agenda, it costs. And at the moment, we've got issues with inflation, lots of things going on, and we've got a threat to the income to the organisation, and all housing associations have got this threat at the moment.
Of course.
So we await to see what the result of the rent consultation with the government will tell us. But we have been modelling different scenarios, and obviously that has implications for whatever the decision is.
Cool. What do you think the decision, without getting too much into the politics behind it, but what do you think the decision will be? I mean, have you got any? This will go out well after we understand that information. However, what's going to be the impact? I'm hearing 3%, 5%, 7%, or there's loads of different scenarios. But what are you thinking it's going to be, and where will it land?
So it's interesting because I've had an APFED meeting today, and one of the things we were talking about obviously was this, and I think the feeling is that, and I think the NatFed have gone back and on behalf of nearly half of housing associations saying that boards should be deciding what the rents should be for that organisation. However, we are in this situation, and the word on the street is it might likely to be 5%. But you just don't know. When the -1% rent cap came in a few years ago, that just came in. out nowhere. So I think, we just have to plan for all the different scenarios. One thing I did hear this morning was that it's likely that we might hear by the end of October, because there's some kind of fiscal report that's coming out then, and it would be timely for governments. Apparently governments are aware of the board cycle, because your boards need to be agreeing rents around now so you can communicate with your customers to go out for the new financial year. So so that immediately at the moment is one of the things that's taken a lot of time up.
Yeah, and what does it mean for housing providers? I mean, the obvious thing is the income will decrease, but with inflation where it's at, what's going to be the thing that we have to let go at? Because we're being told to build houses, we're being told to do all these things. Naturally, building safety is not something we can forego, so that's a key area. But what will have to happen?
It's a really good question, because I think our regulator expects everything still to be delivered, and there's timescales attached to lots of things. But I think what you need to look at is your operating costs. Make sure you're as lean as ever. Make sure that you're looking at your processes and procedures, that you're not doing things you shouldn't, you don't have to do, and make sure that we're doing the right things. I think there might be a bit of smoothing and delaying of some things, so things might take slightly longer, but agreeing action plans with people like the fire service or with your customers that think you might need to take a bit longer. Those bathroom life cycles and kitchen life size, that might be a bit stretched again. And these are all the kind of scenarios and stress testing that I'm sure lots of housing associations are doing at the moment. But it is really difficult. I think inflation is and fuel poverty for our customers is a massive issue. So that's something that we're really conscious of. And in a way, zero carbon agenda can really help that. But that seems like a very expensive thing that will probably, that will be something that will be extended. I can't see people can afford that at the moment.
I agree. And it's so, the irony around it, doing the net zero carbon would make the cost of living better. But clearly this cost to do that would be just, at the minute, feels phenomenal, doesn't it? The amount of money we have to invest.
It does. And I mean, my biggest fear is that particularly our elderly customers, that they will be too scared to put the heating on. And so we're looking at approaches that we might make, similar to what we did during COVID times, to our very vulnerable customers, just to checking in, making sure they're okay. And, trying to partner with agencies that can offer other support, like blankets and other things. So it's, we're in very unprecedented times, but we're very well placed as housing providers. And that's what we're really privileged with, that we're able to do that and hopefully, support people in the right way.
Yeah, and from a peaks and plains perspective, just specifically on some of the scenarios that you're looking at, like stretching the bathroom life cycle, etc. But you've got to say, as a nation, you've got to think that development will take a back seat in all of this, won't it? Because it's
yeah, you think that, but when we've been doing our stress testing, developing helps. So getting our numbers up helps. And actually, you referred to it a little bit earlier. We were very lucky with some refinancing that was done not so long ago, which will help support developing. And traditionally, when our country's gone into kind of recession, the fringes of it, housing associations are a really good bet to carry on. So that's so we see opportunities with some of that.
Yeah.
So we're still very much hoping to develop. I mean, there is something at the moment about inflation and contractor availability and everything else. So you can, again, there's loads of issues with planning and things taking a long time. So it's just about understanding that, talking to your boards about how we might need to contract in the future. So, fixed price contracting is very much not there anymore.
Yeah.
You have to sit around the table and look at fluctuation clauses and things like that. So I think it's about looking at how we might deal with these situations and not rushing into anything. And so that's what we're concentrating on at the moment.
Yeah, fair. And I think it's a great concern for the industry. Everyone I've spoken to is talking about it. It's a real problem, because what we don't want to happen is the service to our tenants and residents becoming the big thing that we drop as a result of a price cap. Ironically,
absolutely, yeah.
You mentioned it, so I just wanted to talk about kind of peaks and plains and some of the research you did. I've had a real resurgence of a year this year, and one thing that you talked about was the regulatory grading when we were offline. But can you talk me through that process? Because I don't understand it, but I'm sure loads of the listeners don't. But the grading's gone from G3 to G2. How does that happen, and what work has had to go in to allow that to happen?
So, housing association regulation is really important, and it's, you know, reputationally, it affects your funding, it affects the confidence that people have in your business. It's a huge thing, and lots of reasons can cause these what are called downgrades. So the one that affected my organisation was related to compliance, which which hit people quite, you know, around that time. People have been downgraded for rent breaches, for you know, different things. But our one was, you know, there was massive change. We got a new chief executive board chair, and we just did a root and branch review of everything. As a result, I'm really confident that our especially on the compliance side, we have got really, really good data. We've got good systems. I get a report every day that tells me where everything's up to. There's so much more assurance. And you could argue that actually having to get to that downgrade enabled that to, you know, really focus and happen. So it's a process. So you then get to G2. And G2 was really important for us, because then it allowed us to refinance, because obviously you're a better sure bet with some of the investors than if you're G3. And we're on a route to hopefully getting to our G1, which will be great. So it's taken a lot of time and energy and a lot of meeting with the regulator, and but it's been a really interesting process.
Yeah, I bet, and it's a challenge, albeit, you know, some of the situations that happened through COVID and previous, it was difficult, weren't they? I mean, like the services to provide were difficult in that time as well, weren't they? So I think it's a real challenge. And you mentioned the funding. I read, and I'll quote, but £102.5 million funding deal via Aviva, was that right? Facilities. So what will that mean for the business? Because that's big news, isn't it? And that's
that's part of our growth. So that's part of, you know, some of that's part of zero carbon. Some of that's part of our, you know, trying to enable us to be able to provide better, much more good quality, more social housing in areas that, you know, traditionally it's very difficult to get affordable housing. So that's something I'm really passionate about, and so a lot of that money does support that.
Yeah, and you mentioned about creating 500 new homes, I read, by 2028. As you said, the funding will be there. How do you go about that? I mean, that's a lot of homes. Do you work with lots of partners? Do you work with contractors? Do you self-deliver? How are you currently going around building those homes?
So we're part of frameworks where we work with different contractors, but we also, we're lucky that we've got our own land, our own estates as well, that helps support some of those numbers. So we've got a plan.
Okay, cool. And one thing I want to talk to you about, because I've seen you've done loads of work in the past, but I want to talk about, and part of the reason we do the podcast, the main one is about diversity and how do we get more women and more protected characteristics actually into our marketplace to diversify our teams. But you've done so much work in the past. You used to be chair of Women in Property. You've done a lot. Talk to me about your sort of leadership journey, because you mentioned that you got promoted in your maternity. Which is unheard of, or
I know. Well, at that time as well, I think I was very lucky. I worked for an amazing chief exec.
How did you?
He's still around. I think that so Women in Property is really interesting, because I was invited as a client with somebody to something, and it was like an event, and it sort of snowballed from there. And so I've been a committee member for nearly 10 years. I was chair in 2018. And now currently my role on the committee is a membership secretary. So I deal with any new members, and our membership's increasing every month, which is great. where I think I found it personally a really good. I've met some great friends and really good professional support. And we do things like site visits. So somebody might be working on a site. We've been around like Manchester Town Hall, which was brilliant because one of the architects from there is on our committee. And we've just, we did a tour of Band on the Wall last week, which was great. The new venue there, got to learn all about the history and all the work that was done to make that into a new venue. So it's really interesting, as well as providing some really good stuff. So we have a mentoring program. So that's been great, and I've benefited from that. And we also really invest in students. So every year we do a students award. So we get all the different regions get nominations from different unis in that area of anyone that's doing work in any type of construction. And then they get forward to like a judging process. And then the finalists go to a national final that's at Claridge's. And we've just had one that happened in September. The winner came from Scotland. But it's brilliant profile raising for all the students. They get to network. They get to learn how to present. They all get placements. It's such a positive process.
It's amazing.
It's brilliant. And so it's... it's great. So I'm really pleased to be part of Women in Property, and I'm going to continue, hopefully, to be involved with them for some time.
Amazing. And how do people get involved that are listening that might be interested in getting involved? Is it a simple application process? How do you go about that if they are interested?
So if anyone's interested, you can come along to any event as a non-member. We've got a really good website, but if you did want to become a member, you can just email me and I can send you details out, and you can join. We've got an app which is great, so you can come to different events. We've we do an annual dinner each year, and our annual dinner is coming up on the 3rd of November, and it's nearly sold out, but we've got a few more seats left, and I've been helping organise that, and it's going to be brilliant. So yeah, I'd encourage you to have a look on the website, see if there's any events that you want to come. And the big thing with our events is so many people just come on their own, and they're so friendly and welcoming and inclusive that everybody says that they meet people there and they feel really comfortable. So
amazing.
Don't be scared of going to something on your own, because your confidence will really increase by doing that.
Yeah, no, I will. I'll put that in the show notes. Actually, I'll get the website address and I'll put it in the show notes so people can see that.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask, like 20 plus years in housing, an executive director already, and I think kind of a lot of questions I get asked is kind of what would be some of the advice you'd give to other women that want to try and climb the ladder in a housing association or do something? What advice would you give someone that's really looking to pursue the furthering of their career in housing? So
I think that my advice would be take every opportunity that comes, grab it. Don't think about, am I good enough, or have I got the time to do this? That's what's helped me anyway. I've just gone for it and been really lucky. I think that housing's a great sector for women, because it's we can work agile. There's a lot of investment in training. A lot of organisations will often recruit on your enthusiasm and your attitude, and you can learn on the job. I'm not saying a lot of jobs need qualifications and things like that, but there's something about really understanding the work that you're going to do some research. I think I'm a big fan of networking and raising your confidence that way, but also going to the right things and speaking to people. Get a mentor. So I've had a brilliant mentor for a long, long time, who's the chief exec of a very big housing association in the Northeast, and he's helped me immensely. I think also just believe in yourself, really, because you can get I've joined my organisation and I'm doing things that I've not really done before, but it's going okay. So I think, yeah. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, it does. And talking through some of those things, because I find that I speak to a lot of people on a daily basis, and generally I see that it's the confidence to believe in oneself, to push yourself into those situations. Like I can tell from speaking to you and offline and stuff that you're a massive networker. You've got a big collaborative mindset and you're happy to help anyone. But some people that are lacking in that confidence just need that little push sometimes, don't they, to get to some of these events, to do some networking. And our sector's so collaborative in terms of people want to mentor, they want to be mentors, they want to help others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's really good, I think, about our sector is that people are really happy to share information.
They are.
And you don't necessarily get that in other sectors from what I understand. But I think it's about just making the effort to go to the first event. And I think once you start, and this is what I found with some of our women in property events, that that helps trigger the next event, and you'll meet somebody there and then you'll see the same person at the next one. So yeah, it works well. And that goes for conferencing as well. The NatFed's got an asset management conference on at the moment that I'm going to in Coventry tomorrow, and I think that they work really hard with apps and joining. So you can see who's going in advance, and you can even send them an invite and arrange to have a coffee and things like that for them. I think there's some really good ways that you can engage.
Yeah, and the other thing I get asked quite a lot is around people trying to raise a family and trying to continue with the career, and it's doable, isn't it, in our sector? That is a much more available thing, especially given what happened in COVID. I think agile working, being able to raise a family is something that you can do and also pursue your career.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's something about working agile now, particularly my organization. We've got people that work in different countries who are working for us, and it's brilliant. And I think that COVID has helped that agenda quite a bit. I mean, it's just so useful, isn't it, being at home and being able to, at lunchtime, put the slow cooker on or put some washing on and things like that. It helps you. You run your home, really. So it's been. Yeah, so I mean, it's helped. I've been really lucky. Once I had my son, I was able to negotiate working this is way before agile working really came in and everything, to do a condensed week. So I had mummy Fridays till he was about 11, but it was so precious because I was able to go into his primary school and work in the library for an hour on a Friday morning, and his face to see his mum in his school was priceless. So so there is ways that you can make it work.
And it's not either or either, is it?
No,
and this is the one thing that I think you've got to stress in this world now, is it's not either or. You can raise a family and have a great family life, but also have pursue your dreams in your career as well. You can have both now, I think.
Absolutely.
In this world.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do Peaks and Plains currently work towards you talk about agile working? Is it fully agile? Do you go to the office? Like, how does that work in Peaks and Plains?
So we promote an agile working environment. Obviously, not all roles can work as agile as other roles, but we make allowances for that. And what we've done, we own all our office block, and it's we've got other businesses in there, but we realised that what people wanted when they did come to the office was space to have team meetings. So we were able to take some space back on the ground floor that enables that to happen. So we've got the office there for people that want to come in. We're trying to sort of say, we don't really want you in 5 days a week working how we used to work. We're a different organisation now. We need to be more agile and work differently. And everyone's responding to that. But it's interesting because some people found that really hard. They're used to being told what to do and when to go. And so I know different organisations have had challenges with this, but so far so good with what we're doing.
And I know that you had to develop your leadership style, because it's difficult, isn't it? I've got loads of people that work from home in my organisation, and then it took me some adjusting to, okay, I need to get on a Teams call, or we need to do a video call or a more phone call. But how did you have to adapt your style? Because you joined the business in COVID, didn't you? So you were already in it.
I know. I think what was good for me was because I was on quite a long notice period just before COVID. COVID, I did visit the office. I did attend a board meeting and an audit meeting in person, and then we went straight into COVID. So one of the things I have is I have what's called a stand-up meeting every Friday morning. That's an hour from 9 till 10, and it's for all the managers in my directorate. So there's about 27 of them, but they don't have to come, but they all tend to come. And they and I'll give a couple of reminders about PDPs or we've got board coming up and these are on the agenda. And then I go around the room and everyone gives a quick update of what's going on in their world. And it could be, I'm in real crisis, I need help kind of thing. So it's and it's been going for a long time. It's really good. And then they send me what they've said and I put it in the body of the report and of the invite. So when it goes out the next week, anyone that's not in can see the kind of things that were discussed. I've also added, to make it a bit interesting, we're doing a desert island disc slot as part of it as well.
Nice.
So they all have to choose 3 songs that mean something to them, and that's been a challenge to try and get them to play through teams, but we've cracked it. So we're in our 4th week of desert island discs as well as part of that session. And so these are the kind of things you have to adapt. I think it's all about communication. Just because you're not there doesn't mean that you can't support or communicate or even collaborate. And it's about making sure that people have the time, try and time things in the office so there's more than one thing happening that day. So you're making the most out of everyone being there.
Yeah, of course. And what have you seen as the setbacks? I mean, like obviously with anything that's got a benefit, there's always a set. But what's been some of the challenges you've faced of having to do the agile leadership role? Like what has been some of the challenges you've had to overcome?
I think some of it is sometimes you just miss some of that thing, just on the off chance that you might hear things by just working with people and actually hearing. Sometimes your meetings are very business focused. And sometimes it's quite nice to have that chat about different things.
Cup of coffee chat, water machine sort of conversations.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that's where so we try and organise some monthly meetings where we put some time to be able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's definitely been a challenge.
And what's been the impact on customers in terms of service? Have you had to accelerate digital transformation or do anything in that sense? Or were you already kind of offering your services pretty remotely anyway?
Well, I think what we've been able to do by working agile is offer different times, which has been really good for our customers. I think we are working to support customers digitally, but we do have a lot of customers that still want to call us.
Yeah, of course, I bet.
And we have and want a printed version of your annual report, and so we work with what's called a challenge group of customers to go through processes. One of the things that we did as soon as we'd finished all the work we'd done on compliance and assets and property was looked at our customer data. So we did a big customer data project where we contacted all our customers to ask them about their preferences, check their details, and that was a massive project. And we're at the end of that now. So that's put us in a really strong position of data that we have on our customers, which is really timely because a few other organisations are looking at doing that now.
Yeah. And how have you found because you're a good networker, how have you found the collaboration piece? Because we're facing all these challenges together, cost of living, decarbonisation, etc. So how do you collaborate with other organisations as Peaks and Plains or yourself personally? Like, how are you getting yourself into these groups and networks to try and solve these problems as a collective rather than individual businesses?
So I think that it's really, you're responsible for finding out your own knowledge kind of thing. So I'm a big advocate of, attending breakfast events where certain topics are being held. I'll go to conferences when I can. Yeah. Like the one I'm going to tomorrow, I'm actually chairing a session on estate regeneration tomorrow.
Right.
And I'm hoping to learn through the session that I'm chairing.
Right.
I think I'm really lucky that I've been involved in the NatFed groups because I get so much from them. They're always sending information out. And I think, Twitter and Social media is a really good way of getting instant information. Even if you're not at a conference, hashtag the conference and you'll get all the kind of big highlights that are coming out. I wasn't at I think there was a HQN conference where Quajo was one of the panelists, and it was really good because you've seen lots of things that were being said. I mean, he's going on BBC News later on to massive character in housing, and so you don't necessarily sometimes have to physically be somewhere to find out exactly what's going on.
No.
But I think that's a big thing, that don't expect people sometimes to tell you. You sometimes have to go and find it yourself and then share it, and then people will share things with you.
Yeah, we live in a world now, don't we, where instant information is at our fingertips, but some people still think it's just going to land on their desk, and it's not always that way, is it? But it's but I do think kind of the only way the sector gets through some of these current challenges is together. Because honestly, if everyone goes individually to go and fix these things, we're all going to run on a different direction, and then we'll all come back to the centre point eventually.
Yeah, it's like legal advice as well, like paying for every different organisation. Seen some good collaboration on that, where people have said, right, we're going to be paying for this, we might as well jointly get something, and being part of really good frameworks as well. We're part of a JV North framework, and they're really good at providing lots of different support and training and getting people to be more collaborative. So I think I agree with you completely.
Yeah, no, amazing. And a few last things. The first one was the UK Housing Awards. So I saw that you're going to be judging the UK Housing Awards.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. What have you gained as part of that process, and how does that come about?
So I was approached I've judged a couple of housing things before, and I said that I would, and we did the judging day a few weeks ago actually, and so my category is local authority of the year. So I won't tell you who.
No, obviously not. No,
because the awards aren't until sometime in November. So, but it was, it's really, if anything, it's another learning process, because you find out these amazing things that different people are doing, and so it's great to be involved with them.
It's got to be like, I'm only imagining, but as being a panel or being a judge in an award, it can only reinforce your love for the housing sector, can't it? Just in terms of some of the good stuff that's going on in our sector, you must see it all from doing that.
And sometimes you don't see that when you just attend an awards. I think you used to years ago that you'd get a big booklet saying what everyone had done, but you get a bit more information. I think it's what's interesting is some of the backlash that some award ceremonies. So that awards has had some backlash from people saying, shouldn't be having these kind of awards because of things that are going on at the moment. So, which is a shame.
That is a shame.
Because I think it's a really good way of showcasing and people learning about some really good stuff that's happening.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And another thing I want to touch on, obviously you're on the board at First Choice Homes. Again, I'm sure that gives you loads of knowledge of what's going on in the sector, etc. But what else have you learned from that process of being a board member at one of the bigger housing associations?
Yeah, so I've been involved with them for about a year now, and it's been great to sort of because they're part of GM. So GM's a very collaborative bunch of housing associations. Yeah. So again, finding out at that level also, Oldham is a very diverse area, very different to the area that I operate in my day-to-day role. So I've learned loads, and it's been great. We've done loads of site tours, and it's been a really, really good process. I think we're a really good board. We've got a good chair, and it's been great to be part of it.
Amazing. And as we wrap up, just a couple of last things. The first one that I'm really passionate about at the moment is, how do we inspire the next generation of talent to come through into our sector? So how do we change the narrative from people falling into the sector, which 90% of people did back 10, 20 years ago, to actually people seeing housing as an industry of choice? What ideas come up for you when you think about that? Because I'm really passionate about it, but I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, so I think I think it's hard because years ago you used to be able to do housing as a sort of like a degree and things like that, and that's all seems to have gone now. But I think there is, I think graduate positions, apprenticeships, so not just apprenticeships on the traditional trades and things like that. We should be apprenticeships working, in surveyors, all the roles that you're struggling to get candidates in like zero carbon assessors, compliance staff, and get them young and send them to college to get their qualifications and stuff like that. That's a great offering for a younger person. Again, attitude, and then give them the skills and support to be great. And I think, women in property are really good at going into schools. So they have a programme where they work with an organisation called Regeneration Brainery to go in and support youngsters, young adults really, about what kind of opportunities and jobs are within the whole of the property sector. But housing is a great thing to be part of, and I think it's a great privilege to be able to be someone who's trying to help the community be a better place.
Yeah, and that seems to be definitely the next generation sort of want. It's not money and it's not progression, it's planet and it's environment and it's helping and all that stuff. So maybe it will naturally just become a more interesting sector for our next generation. But and final thing for me really was just around kind of what are you excited about and what do you see as the future for Peaks and Plains? And I suppose on top of that, what would you like to see happen in housing in the next sort of 3-5 years?
So I'm excited about us getting to our G1, and I'm excited about us growing a little bit and getting through some of the challenges that we've got facing us at the moment. I think my hopes for the sector is that we continue to offer a really good service to our customers. We don't get swallowed up into some kind of huge machine that doesn't offer all the kind of, because each housing associations offer different things, and that's what different communities reflect that. So I just hope that we're able to do that more often. And also, I'm a big fan of technology, so I do a lot of work on BIM and digital records. I think that's something that as soon as if we can get really hot as a sector. So one of the issues is having good systems that can cope with some of this stuff. That we have much, we're able to have much more digitization.
Yeah, and it's a great way to finish actually, because I think all those 3 points are really relevant, and I suppose just to thank you from me, because honestly, like, it's lovely to hear someone that really has gone out of their way to network, collaborate, inspire the next generation and stuff. And I think people are going to get real value out of that episode. And I can't wait to share it with people. So thank you for coming on, and look forward to catching up on this G1 status soon as well.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.